Good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm going to play another live stream concert for you tonight. And the theme for tonight's concert is a tribute to Eubie Blake. Now, if you haven't heard of Eubie Blake, he was one of the very greatest of all ragtime pianists and composers, early jazz, and also Broadway show music. In fact, I think Eubie was probably most proud of the work that he did on Broadway. He wrote about 6 Broadway shows, half a dozen or so, 1 or 2 of which actually would have been considered operetta. But anyhow, we're going to start with some of his early ragtime music, and this is the tune that he claimed he wrote when he was 16 years old, although, as we know, Eubie may have exaggerated his age a bit, so it may not have been as early as he claimed in 1899. It's probably a few years after that. This is the Charleston Rag. Thank you very much. And as Eubie Blake would say, that's ragtime. Well, that's the Charleston Rag. The original title of that, incidentally, was Sounds of Africa. I meant to grab the record. I have an original copy of Eubie Blake's Emerson record of that piece under the title Sounds of Africa. We know that the piece dates to at least 1917 because that's when he made his first piano roll of the piece. Oh, well, greetings to Matthew in Cleveland. Glad to have some new folks here tuning in. Hi to Marilyn and Bill in West Virginia. All right. Looks like video and audio is working fine. Well, and I know Nick Taylor's watching from Colorado Springs. He told me one of his favorites of the Eubie Blake pieces is Baltimore Totolo. And it's also one of my favorites. I learned this way back when I first started playing the piano. So this is one of his earlier rags to it. I believe it dates to about 1907, or at least that's what Eubie claimed. He was certainly a storyteller. And during that period, Eubie was playing the piano in his hometown in Baltimore at a hotel owned by Joe Gans, who was a black boxing champion. And that was the Goldfield Hotel in Baltimore. So anyway, this is called the Baltimore Totolo, and the Totolo was a dance of the ragtime years. Now, whether anybody knows how to do that dance anymore, I really don't know. I highly doubt it. But we're going to play the Baltimore Totolo for you now. Thank you so much. My goodness, got somebody watching from Japan tonight. Isn't that amazing? As you can hear, my parents are sitting in the background clapping, and they're here since I had my birthday earlier this week. And we're driving all the way from Colorado to Starkville, Mississippi. We're leaving on Tuesday because I finally get to play at one real music festival, the Templeton Ragtime and Jazz Festival at Mississippi State University this coming weekend. Very excited about it. I think this is the only in-person music festival, except for one small one in Pennsylvania, that I have done in 2.5 years. It's hard to believe, but I'm looking forward to that. And before I say too much else, let me play another great Eubie Blake rag for you. And this is one of his first 2 published pieces, Chevy Chase and Fizzwater. I'm going to play Chevy Chase for you, which came out in 1914. The music publisher Joseph Stern in New York published both of these tunes, and I believe John Arpin told me that Chevy Chase was named for some little town in Maryland between Baltimore and Washington, D.C., where Eubie used to go with his family when he was young. I think that's the story on the name of the tune. The cover of the music, of course, has like a figure of a horse in a horse race on the cover of the music. I don't know what that's about, but the Chevy Chase is a great rag. Let me play it for you now. Thank you so much. Well, I haven't really explained yet why I love Eubie and his music so much. I think it's the very best representation of East Coast ragtime style piano. A close second might be Lucky Roberts. They were both sort of transitionary figures between ragtime and what's called Harlem stride piano. Lucky was the first of those musicians to have his music published, actually. Pork and Beans and what's the other one? Junkman Rag came out in 1913, and Eubie Blake had Chevy Chase and Fizzwater in 1914. And that's one reason I love Eubie so much. Also because I love Broadway show music, and he wrote some of the very best Broadway music of the Roaring '20s. Looks like I've got a number of new people watching tonight, so if you're just tuning in, I do accept virtual tips for these concerts. I really appreciate that. All you have to do is send in a tip on PayPal or Venmo. The information is in the postings on both YouTube and Facebook. I really appreciate that while I try and get my career going again. And there's also a P.O. box on my website if you prefer to send checks. And I appreciate that too, I really do. In fact, tips have been down lately, and I have been frustrated. And then by the end of the week, a few checks come in the mail, and it really helps. So again, I'm appreciative. Well, I had a request prior to the concert for Eubie Blake's Fizzwater. Now, I haven't ever played the tune, and I didn't have time to learn it, so I thought I'd play a piano roll for you. I'm only going to do one roll tonight, but if you are just tuning in to my concerts for the first time, this is a 1913 Apollo player piano, and what's unique about this is that most upright player pianos do not have dynamic control, and this one does. I have dynamic control, and I can also control the pedaling myself. So here is a really fun prearranged piano roll of Eubie Blake's Fizzwater from 1914. And Fizzwater, I guess you'd consider it a instrumental rag, but it's really more of a one-step. And one-step, of course, is a very simple dance. There's only one step to it. And the way that it's easy to identify those tunes because the marching bass always seems like it's in double time. That's the way Fizzwater is. And again, this is not a hand-played piano roll, but a fun one. And I see David Thomas Roberts is listening in. Hi, David. So glad you're watching tonight. I thought this concert might be special because I know you knew Eubie too. But we're playing this piano roll right now. Here we go with Fizzwater from 1914. guess I shouldn't be bowing since I didn't really play that, but the dynamic control on this piano really gives a lot of life to these otherwise mechanical piano rolls. And I think this is one of the rolls that I obtained out of the late Dick Krekel's collection. The family let me take a box of about 20 or 30 piano rolls after he passed, and that was one of the fun ones I found. Anyway, back to the story of Eubie Blake. And of course, one of his crowning achievements was a 1921 Broadway show called Shuffle Along. And Shuffle Along was important for a lot of reasons, primarily because it was the first truly successful, I mean big hit Broadway show that was produced entirely by African Americans. The entire cast was black. The composer and lyricist, as well as the couple that wrote the script for the show, Miller and Lyle. Flournoy, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Flournoy, Miller, and Aubrey Lyles. Miller and Lyles, they were a black comedy team. They wrote the script for the show. And in those days, Broadway shows had lots and lots of songs. Unlike today, you only have to write about 3 songs for a Broadway show. They wrote something like 20 songs for this show. And the music is all wonderful and melodic and jazzy. One of Eubie Blake's great inspirations as a composer was Victor Herbert, the great American operetta composer. Eubie loved the beautiful melodies of operettas. One of his favorite composers I know was the British songwriter, the name's going to escape me. Ian Whitcomb told me he was a favorite of Eubie's. The name's going to escape me, but maybe it'll come to me later. Anyway, I have learned a number of the songs from Shuffle Along, and I'm going to start by playing a medley of 3 of the songs for you. And the songs include I'm Just Wild About Harry, which of course was probably the biggest hit of Eubie's career. And there's a bit of a sad story behind that song, which is that he originally wrote the tune as a waltz, but a serious love song at the time performed by African Americans on stage was not really acceptable. And so he was forced to change the song from a waltz to the song as we all know it now. I like to play it both ways. We'll do it as a waltz and a foxtrot. And after I'm Just Wild About Harry, another tune that Eubie wrote about his hometown, Baltimore Buzz, and then winding up with Gypsy Blues, which is based on Victor Herbert's Gypsy Love Song. As I said, Eubie loved Victor Herbert. I think they even met one time. And so this is a medley of 3 songs from Shuffle Along, written by Eubie Blake and his vaudeville partner, Noble Sissle. Their partnership, by the way, went all the way back to 1915, and this show started in 1921. Here's my Shuffle Along medley. much. All right, there's my shuffle along medley. But I'm going to do some more songs from that show for you, of course. And in case you're one of the new viewers, I do accept requests in these concerts, of course. Always happy to do that, but it has to be something that I kind of know ahead of time. And I like to stick to the theme for the concert to a certain extent. And so I do my best. I'll probably get to some more requests more towards the end of the program tonight. For now, this one started as a request. One of my musical friends, Steve Ross from New York, a great cabaret performer, asked me to learn this song when I did my last Eubie Blake tribute concert. And I think I need to play it again because it's one of the most gorgeous melodies from Shuffle Along. So I'm going to do this tune by itself, and then another one from Shuffle Along as well. But for now, here is Love Will Find a Way by Cecil and Blake. Love will find a way. Love will find a way. Thank you very much. Thank you, Shirley. Thanks to everybody. Incidentally, share the live stream if you would like to, and also don't forget to click the like button because it really helps with the social media algorithms. I appreciate that, and it helps on both Facebook and YouTube, by the way. Oh, we're up to 80 on YouTube. Terrific. Thanks, folks. 80 people and only 20 likes. As long as there's no dislikes. I hope not. There is a dislike button. I wish they'd never put that on Facebook or YouTube. Well, now, I almost forgot about this song. I'm going to do another song independently from Shuffle Along. And I think Bob Milne has the greatest story about this tune, which is he was playing at one of the ragtime festivals. I think it was the Toronto Ragtime Bash, would have been in the 70s sometime, and Bob played this tune, which is called "If You've Never Been Vamped by a Brown Skin, You've Never Been Vamped at All." And he played it, and he heard a voice behind him say, "Not bad, kid." And it turned out it was the composer, Eubie Blake. And so let me do this tune for you now. Not politically correct, but look, it's a great song. And my version here is partially inspired by a really hot piano roll that James P. Johnson made. So here's "If You've Never Been Vamped by a Brown Skin, You've Never Been Vamped at All." Thank you, folks. That's kind of how the piano roll goes. Anyway, yes, I've already done "I'm Just Wild About Harry." I figured I'd get some requests for that. I guess I should have done it in the middle of the program so that more people would hear it. But and of course, I'll do "Memories of You" before too long as well. Oh, guess what? That's the next thing on my list of what I plan to play. So we're going to go to 1930 now and play for you Eubie Blake's favorite of his own compositions. And this is a gorgeous ballad called "Memories of You." And one of the stars of the Broadway show was Ethel Waters. I'm not sure if she's the first one that ever introduced this song, but it's quite possible. And the show was called Lou Leslie's Blackbirds of 1930. Book again by Flournoy Miller. Lyrics by Andy Razoff, who was one of the greatest of the lyricists of the American songbook. And he also wrote Honeysuckle Rose and Ain't Misbehavin' with Fats Waller. And my arrangement of Memories of You is taken after Eubie Blake's own version, of course. And I was able to learn it directly off one of the piano rolls that he made for QRS when he was an older man in the 70s. And it's a beautiful arrangement of a gorgeous song, Memories of You. much. Memories of You. Oh, Kelly wants to hear Troublesome Ivories. Yep, I'll definitely do that tonight. Stay tuned. Janice Chrissy says, Adam, you make a piano sound like an entire orchestra. Well, thank you very much. That is the idea with music of this period. You know, it was later on in modern jazz, piano players didn't use their left hand as much. It was not as strong. They had bass players and drummers that sort of took the place of the left hand for piano players. And arrangements like that are meant to sound like a beautiful orchestra, you know. And I'm going to play another song for you from the same Broadway show as Memories of You. And this is one of Eubie's great tunes. He wrote so many wonderful songs that are forgotten. These are early jazz Broadway show tunes. We've left the classic ragtime of Scott Joplin behind really here, but I love Eubie's music for exactly what it is. And he wrote, again, lots of songs for every show. For instance, there's songs here that no one remembers called Blackbirds on Parade. That Lindy Hop is good. Eubie recorded that. Waking Up the Folks Downstairs. Doing the Mozambique. Aren't those wonderful titles? I would love to hear an orchestra today play these songs. In any event, this one is called You're Lucky to Me. And I'm going to play this as a medley for you with another song, two of Eubie's hits from the year 1930. I would say that he really didn't have that many songs that were big, popular hits. It was difficult for black composers in those days, but these tunes would qualify, and after You're Lucky to Me, I'm going to play this tune, which is called Loving You the Way I Do. And this song has become very special to me. I love it. In fact, it was probably one of Eubie's biggest hits, which has been forgotten by modern-day audiences. It came out in 1930, and this is the original cover, by the way, from an African-American show called Hot Rhythm. And unlike many of the other shows, Eubie only wrote this one song for this show. Now, the reason I know it was a big hit is because the sheet music for that song turns up all the time, and there were lots and lots of dance band recordings on 78 records of the song as well. And there was an alternate edition of the sheet music, which is very special. And I remember showing this when I did a live stream on Eubie Blake before. I'm going to show it again. There were different performers pictured on the cover of this alternate edition. And on the cover of this copy, you see Baby Rosemarie. And she later became very famous as Rosemarie on the Dick Van Dyke Show and Hollywood Squares. But as a child star, she was a major performer on radio and records and in vaudeville. And so I had her autograph that for me when I went to her home in Van Nuys, California. It's pretty remarkable, I think, for someone my age to have an original edition of one of Eubie Blake's songs that's autographed for me. That's just one of my greatest treasures. Rosemarie didn't remember Eubie Blake, really. They probably would have had to be on separate vaudeville circuits. There was a separate black vaudeville circuit. I'm not sure about that. Sometimes they crisscrossed, but she signed the song for me. So now we're going to do You're Lucky to Me, followed right up by Loving You the Way I Do, two of Eubie Blake's hits, both from 1930. Well, it's almost 7 o'clock here in Colorado. I do want to try and get in a few requests tonight, and I thought it might be appropriate to represent one of the great African-American composers of the same period, people that were associated with Eubie Blake, maybe W.C. Handy or James P. Johnson. Let me know if you want to hear some of their music. Those are the ideas I had. Please send in other requests and let me know. I've got a few more Eubie Blake songs, but not too many left, so I might have to start doing some other tunes. All right. I don't see any requests coming in here on Facebook. I think last time I played James P. Johnson, so I think this time I might do W.C. Handy. Amy says yes to both. Well, I might do a little of both. And I mentioned that I'm playing at the Templeton Ragtime and Jazz Festival in Mississippi later this week, and I'm very excited about that. One of the composers who's associated with that area of the country, of course, is W.C. Handy. Well, let me do a couple of his tunes for you. And of course, he's known as the father of the blues, but he did write one instrumental ragtime piece, too. I've been playing this more often lately, and I really love it. I've been trying to improve my arrangement of it. I even have an original copy of this. I think there's only about 4 known original copies in the world. This is called the Ole Miss Rag. In the early days, ragtime and blues were very similar, and in fact, he changed the title of it to Ole Miss Blues later on, but it's really the Ole Miss Rag. And let me play this for you now, and then maybe we'll do something else momentarily. Ole Miss Rag. asleep back there. No. Well, I see another request for Charleston Rag. Of course, I've already played that in the program. Normally in a live performance, like at the hotel here in Durango where I live, I don't mind repeating songs, but I don't tend to do that on the live streams. I do leave them up so you can always watch them later. I think it's easiest to access them on YouTube. You go to my YouTube channel, which has my middle initial in it, Adam G. Swanson, and you can find all of the live stream concerts that I have left up from almost 2 years worth of doing this. And it's been 2 years just about this week, I think. And I only leave up the concerts that I think are the best. If I mess up more than 1 or 2 songs, then I delete them. But you can find them on YouTube. And so you can listen to Charleston Rag. Same with I'm Just Wild About Harry. Somebody asked me for that. I've already played that tonight. Let me do another handy tune. Maybe one that's not so well known. We'll do the Beale Street Blues, which is actually very famous. It's just not as well known as the St. Louis Blues. Let me do the Beale Street for you. Written in 1916 when Handy lived in Memphis, Tennessee. I think I'm going to play that Ole Miss Rag when I go to Mississippi. It seems fitting. But anyway, here's the Beale Street Blues. came for Beale Street in Memphis, Tennessee. There's still a statue of W.C. Handy down on Beale Street, which is pretty neat. I'm glad it's still there. The little house where he wrote some of these famous songs was not originally on Beale Street, but they moved it there now, and it's a museum. And let's see, what else should I tell you? Well, I do accept virtual concerts for these, virtual tips for these concerts. And if you're inclined to do that, I'm very grateful. As I mentioned, this music festival coming up this weekend is only the second one that I have played in 2.5 years. I really have missed the live interaction, and it'll be nice to get back to that. But I'm going to continue the virtual concerts. It's been really helpful to my career. You can send in a tip on PayPal or Venmo, or even a check through the mail, and my P.O. box is on my website. I appreciate that. David says, "Dang, you make that look easy." It is not. Well, most blues is pretty easy. The trick is making it sound good, even though it only has 3 chords. That arrangement of Beale Street Blues is taken partially after Johnny Maddox, and I try to improve upon it a bit for a recording that I did with Joey Antico, who's the drummer with the Peacherine Ragtime Orchestra. We did a YouTube thing on Beale Street Blues. You can still watch it on YouTube, I think. So anyway, that's the music of W.C. Handy. Maybe I'll get back to Eubie Blake now, which is the theme for tonight's concert. I know Alex Cooper wanted to hear James P. Johnson. I'll probably still have time to do that. But let me go back to Eubie now for a minute. And since we're talking about Handy, in the 1930s, Eubie had a couple of tunes published by the Handy Brothers Music Company. And I have been playing one of these for a while, which I love, and it's called Blue Thoughts. This is a piano solo, a concert-style work that is just meant for concert music. And he wrote this in 1935, and the first time I heard this was on the radio show from the Golden Reunion in Ragtime, and that was probably, I would guess, about 16 or 17 years ago. And just a few weeks ago, I was finally able to snag an original copy of the music off eBay. I have been looking for this for at least 16 years. Again, it's called Blue Thoughts by Eubie Blake. Eubie met his second wife, Marion, through W.C. Handy, because she was W.C. Handy's secretary. And I'm going to pull out the music for this. I don't play it too often. Here from 1935 is Eubie Blake's Beautiful Blue Thoughts. thoughts. Thank you very much. Mostly you two back there. No. Well, as you can see, when I do these concerts, I often like to go chronologically through the history of music. And so, as you can tell, Eubie's style in the 30s was very different than it was, say, in 1914. And he continued writing songs most of his life. The slowest period for output music from Eubie was the 1940s and 1950s probably. And however, I'm going to play a beautiful song for you, which I've been performing now for the last couple of years. One of Eubie's songs that was never published, but I really wish it was. I bet it would have been a big hit. It has the qualities that all of the great songs of the Depression have. A beautiful melody, sentimental lyric. It's just terrific. I'm not sure exactly when he first wrote it, but it may have not been till the Depression was almost over in 1940 when he wrote a new musical with, again, the lyricist Andy Razoff. And guess what? Comedy scenes by Flournoy Miller of Miller and Lyles. And as I said, the song was never published, but one of my good friends who has probably the greatest collection of Broadway and film sheet music in the country, Harold Jacobs, has been creating new covers for sheet music that was never published. And so here from the musical Tan Manhattan is A Nickel for a Dime. And this is the cover for the music that Harold created. And all of the songs that he's done hundreds of these unpublished songs, are just beautiful because the covers look just like the old music of the 1920s and 30s. Tan Manhattan was a show that came out in 1940 and unfortunately never made it to Broadway as far as I know. And this song has been performed and recorded by a number of artists over the years. And the title was changed slightly. The music of the verse was changed. And it became known, instead of A Nickel for a Dime, it became known as I'd Give $1 for a Dime. And my favorite recording of the piece was made by the Ophelia Ragtime Orchestra from Norway. So that is the version that I've learned. I kind of learned it by ear, a little bit off the sheet music. So this is I'd Give $1 for a Dime by Eubie Blake and Andy Razoff. give a dollar for a dime. Thank you very much, folks. Well, what else would you like to hear? I really haven't got many specific requests tonight. No, I'm not going to forget. I mentioned James P. Johnson. Alex, I saw that Harlem Strut. I think it's been a while since I've played that. I better not play that, but I could do some other James P. Johnson songs for you. What would you like to hear, folks? I'm going to wait until I get something online here on YouTube or Facebook. Send it in now. Speak now or forever hold your peace. What would we like to hear? I could do Carolina Shout. I could do some of the songs that Eubie played of Jimmy Johnson's were, of course, the Charleston. He played Old Fashioned Love pretty often. And also, If I Could Be With You, 1 Hour Tonight, which is a famous one. Carolina Shout. Oh, okay. Yeah, Frank wants to hear that. Maybe I'll play that. No. I don't know, I'm simply full of jazz by heart. Let me do Carolina Shout. Carolina Shout by James P. Johnson, one of the stride piano showpieces. James P. Johnson, even though he was just a few years younger than Eubie Blake, would have been a major influence on Eubie because Johnson's piano style was so innovative at the time. I've got a request for Kitten on the Keys. I could play that. Unfortunately, I don't know Eubie's classical rag by heart. I'm saving Troublesome Ivories for the very finale of the program, so I'm definitely going to do that, of course. Let me check Facebook real quick. Yeah, got multiple requests for Eubie's classical rag. He wrote that in the 70s as a response to the major movement in the 70s to try and make ragtime equal to classical music. People tried to play it like Bach, which is really not quite the right approach. But anyway, I've got that one request for Kitten on the Keys. It's pretty different, but maybe I'll do it. Kitten on the Keys. Who's that? That came from. That request came from Barky Malarkey on YouTube. Kitten on the Keys. Well, maybe I'll play it for you. Just as an example of something that's totally different. And it came out the same year as Carolina Shout, 1921. But this style, novelty piano, was played more by the classically trained pianist and used devices and musical effects that they would have been familiar with, like a lot of fourths and fifths, impressionistic tones. So let's do Kitten on the Keys, and then maybe something else. Oh, that's great, Judy. Thanks for doing that. When I had my own ragtime festival here in Durango, I was very honored that Morten Gunnar Larsen came all the way from Norway the last year, and I had him do a seminar about the life and music of Eubie Blake. Judy said she has posted a link to the video of Morten's seminar. If you want to hear Eubie's music played as good as it gets, you can listen to Morten Gunnar Larsen. I think he's truly just about the best ragtime pianist who's living today. Plays with the best technique and feeling in the music. Truly one of the best. Anyway, thanks, Judy. I'm going to throw in one of the James P. Johnson ballads, popular songs that I love. And this, I believe this came out in 1926. Eubie played it all the time. And the lyrics were written by Henry Creamer of the famous black songwriting team Creamer and Layton, who wrote After You've Gone. So this is If I Could Be With You 1 Hour Tonight, complete with the verse. Thank you so much. If I Could Be With You 1 hour tonight. Oh, Judy says that's not a video, it's only a recording of Morten Larsen, but I'm glad you have that. I'll have to listen to it again sometime. Morten and Eubie actually knew each other and became good friends. And incidentally, unfortunately, I have to skip another week for my virtual concert because of that performance next weekend in Mississippi. But then I'll be back, and every week after that. And the next concert, I looked up the date, I believe it's April 3rd. Yep, Sunday, April 3rd, I'm planning to do a tribute to Walter Donaldson. And I want to thank my friend Bill Huffman in Pennsylvania for suggesting that. I had to think about it for a few weeks, but you know what? I do know enough songs of Donaldson's by heart to do the concert, and I'm really excited about it. It's a different composer that I have not represented yet in my live streams. And if you're not familiar with Donaldson, he wrote some of the very most famous standards of the American songbook. Tunes like My Blue Heaven, My Buddy, Yes Sir, That's My Baby, and so many others. I played one a few weeks back from one of Jean Harlow's movies called Did I Remember? All of those songs are Walter Donaldson, so I can't wait for that concert. And if there's some more requests you want to hear, get them in ahead of time, and I might have time to learn them in time for the concert. I'll probably want to represent one or two other composers to fill out the concert, kind of like I did tonight. So please tune in again on April 3rd for the Walter Donaldson tribute. And I'm going to finish with Troublesome Ivories, one of Eubie's rags. He played it differently almost every time that he did this. And also, this went under several names over the years. Ragtime Rag and Black Keys on Parade. And this is my arrangement that I created for the Old Time Piano Championship. And I change keys and go into G flat for the trio. So here's Troublesome Ivories. Troublesome Ivory. As Eubie would say, that's ragtime. Okay. Actually, I want to correct something. That piece appeared in a music folio that Max Morath produced, not Terry Waldo. I wanted to give credit where it was due. Some of the other tunes like Baltimore Totalo and Kitchen Tom and so forth, those were in Terry's book. But anyhow, thank you so much for listening tonight. And I really appreciate those virtual tips. It helps me keep going. I know who you are, and I try to thank as many people as I can. Thanks so much. Please tune in again, both on Facebook and YouTube, for my tribute to the great songwriter Walter Donaldson on April 3rd. Good night for now, folks.